Welcome to The Explainer. We're going to jump right in today and tackle a really big question. What does it actually mean to believe? You might think it's simple, right? But the source material we're looking at today shows there's a huge, really important distinction we need to understand.
All right, so to get into this, let's start with a bit of a puzzle. It comes from the book of Acts, and it's about this guy named Simon the Sorcerer. Now, Simon was a big deal. He wowed people with his magic. But then, he sees the evangelist Philip doing things that are way more powerful. The text is super clear. It says Simon believed, and he even got baptized. But then, just a little bit later, the apostle Peter comes along and absolutely tears into him, saying some of the harshest things imaginable.
And that is the mystery we're going to unpack. It's a total contradiction, right? How can you believe, get baptized, and still be told you're trapped in the bondage of iniquity? It just doesn't add up. So what was missing here? Well, to figure this out, the sermon does something really clever. It brings in another character from the very same chapter who also believed, an Ethiopian eunuch. And when you put these two guys side by side, wow, you start to see what's really going on. Just look at this comparison. It's night and day. Yeah, both of them believed, but why they believed was completely different. For Simon, it was all about power. He saw something he could buy, another trick up his sleeve. The eunuch, though, he wasn't after power at all. He was just humbly trying to understand what he was reading. And that tiny difference in motivation, it led to completely opposite outcomes. So this contrast between Simon and the eunuch gets us right to the main point of the whole sermon. Not all faith is created equal. The source material argues that the Bible itself shows there are actually two totally different kinds of faith.
And here it is, the core idea. On one side, you've got what's called historical faith. Think of it as just intellectual agreement. You believe the facts are true. Yep, Jesus lived, died, and rose again. Check. That's the kind of faith Simon the Sorcerer had. But on the other side, there's saving faith. This is something more. It goes way beyond just the facts and becomes a personal trust, a real reliance on Jesus himself. And that is what the Ethiopian eunuch had.
So the crucial point here is that just ticking a box and saying, I agree with these facts, is not what the source is calling saving faith. And to really drive this home, the sermon points to something pretty shocking from the scriptures. Even demons have historical faith. I mean, they know exactly who Jesus is. You could say their theology is perfect. But they aren't saved because all they have is head knowledge without any of the personal trust or love.
Okay, so if saving faith is more than just knowing the facts, then what is it? Let's dig a little deeper and build out what it actually looks like.
The sermon brings in this classic definition to help us out. And the two key words to focus on here are receive and rest upon. See, it's not a passive thing like just nodding your head. It's active. It's about taking hold of Christ and, well, resting on him. It's kind of like when you sit in a chair. You don't just agree that the chair exists, you put your whole weight on it, trusting it's going to hold you up.
And this breaks it down into three essential parts. All three have to be there. First, you've got to have the knowledge. You have to know the message. Second, you need assent. That's the agreement part, believing it's true. Now think about it. Simon the Sorcerer, he had both of those, but he was missing that third, absolutely crucial ingredient, trust. That personal reliance, the part where you throw yourself completely on Christ for your salvation. Okay, but this brings up a really interesting question, one the sermon tackles head on. Is this kind of faith a gift from God that you just wait to receive? Or is it something you have to do, a responsibility you have to act on?
And this is a classic tension in theology, and the sermon lays out both sides. On the one hand, the Bible is super clear that faith is a gift from God. But on the other hand, the Bible is also full of commands for people to believe, which makes it sound like a duty, right? Something we're responsible for. The source material basically says you don't pick one or the other, you have to hold both of these ideas together at the same time.
So first, let's look at the gift side of things. This verse from Ephesians couldn't be more direct. It is the gift of God. That means it's not something you can just whip up on your own, and it's definitely not something you can brag about. But then you have this, a direct command. When that jailer in Philippi asks, "What do I have to do to be saved?" the answer isn't, well, sit back and wait for a gift to show up. Nope, it's an urgent command, a call to action. Believe. And that frames faith as an act of obedience, something God calls on us to do. So, if this saving faith is this active, personal trust, and it's somehow both a gift and a duty, what does it actually look like? How can you tell if it's the real deal in someone's life? How does it, show up?
Well, the sermon gives us a bunch of practical signs or maybe evidences to look for. And it's important to say this isn't some kind of cosmic checklist for getting into heaven. It's more like the natural fruit that just starts to grow when someone has genuine faith. It's about what you love, not just what you know. Things like seeing a new beauty in Christ, being way more bothered by your own faults than by other people's, and developing a real love for God's people and His Word.
So, we've really unpacked this crucial difference between two kinds of faith today. We've moved way beyond a simple definition of belief and seen the contrast between, a cold intellectual agreements on one side and a living, breathing personal trust on the other. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What's the real difference between just believing the facts about something and truly entrusting your entire life to it?